Dragons, creatures of myth and legend throughout humanity's history. Dragons can be found throughout much of humanity's past in works of fiction as giant, winged reptiles that could breathe flame, or great-scaled beasts of the sea. And that was what dragons were, fictitious. That is, until around the time the Traveler arrived. After the Traveler terraformed Venus, the Ahamkara appeared and first made contact with humans on its lush surface. Large, dragon-like creatures that attracted the attention of guardians through their promises of knowledge and power. Described as the dragons who made promises, these Ahamkara would make deals with those that sought them out. However, this cost was great, and the tower ordered that the Ahamkara be hunted down and made extinct. The records on the Great Ahamkara Hunt are as follows. After great deliberation, it was determined that the Ahamkara be made extinct. It was not an easy decision. Power had been obtained from the bargains, and the city needed power. Knowledge had been gleaned, and the Ahamkara knew answers to questions no one had known to ask. But the price was too high, and no edict or forbearance seemed to stop guardians from seeking them out, driven by hope, or vengeance, or despair. The call had to be silenced, so the great hunt did its work. And thus, the Ahamkara were made extinct, their call silenced, their solipsistic flatteries erased, their great design, if it ever existed, broken. Of this you can be assured, O reader mine. The last line of that log is the most intriguing part. See, some of the Ahamkara's remains were made into equipment for guardians. Each piece comes with a sort of saying, a few words that comes along with it. Guardians who wear the armor hear a voice in their mind, a slight influence or sensation behind their eyes. Warlocks report hearing things such as, "Reality is the finest flesh, O bearer mine, and are you not hungry?" And, "Look at all of this life, O bearer mine, there is so much left to burn." Scratched behind a buckle on the void-fang vestments, it reads, "You will dream of teeth and nothing else." Hunters who do not seal the Ahamkara's grasp in silver report hearing, "Give me your arm, O bearer mine. Let me help you feel the world with teeth." These voices, heard by the guardians that wear the bones of the Ahamkara, suggest that the influence of the wish-granting dragons carries on even in their death. This characteristic is seen in a warlock's record of describing the Ahamkara to a hunter, which stated, "Why did I set her on the trail? You try and try and try to explain, but no one ever understands. No one who's not a warlock, who hasn't spent a dozen years scouring the ruins for one string of symbols, one clean code, one black talon. Titans just make a humping noise if they've stayed awake. Hunters clean their nails with their knives and look at you like you've grown a third eye. But when you've spent your life searching through arcana for ancient power, you have the urge to reach out and educate others, especially if you've had one too many. Nah, she's not my type at all. We've played dice, cards, war games, you know, the usual stuff. I'd never tried to show off before. I don't know what came over me. I had a broken vertebrae in my pocket that I'd borrowed from, yes, borrowed, I was going to put it back. What do you think you are, my conscience? It was a fossil, that means mineral replacement, a rock, basically. They can survive a few hours in my pocket. Do shut up." The Cryptarchs weren't going to miss it. Everyone knows the Ahamkara were hunted to extinction. There's nothing to be afraid of anymore. "Think of how mysterious this system is," I said. "How much life sprang up when the Traveler came. Like the Ahamkara, do you know the legends, the dragons that made promises?" And I pulled out the fossil with a flourish. She pulled out her knife and started to pick the dirt from her nails. That set me off. "You could never have brought down one of these," I said. "Ever. Not the greatest hunter, not the brawniest titan." Her eyes narrowed. She said, "Oh, is that so?" And I saw right then that she wasn't going to pass on the challenge. I've murdered a guardian, I thought. She's going to die. It'll be my fault. And I looked at that piece of spine in my hand and wondered, why did I say that? What moved me to such pride? The knowledge that the remains of these creatures can still hold sway over those in contact with them is a disturbing thought, to say the least. It leads to speculation on the extinction of the Ahamkara. Were they actually all hunted down? Did the great hunt really occur? Or do some remain in our system, lurking in the shadows, hidden in plain sight? Another, more harrowing thought is that the Ahamkara are a relative, or the same creature, of the worm gods that Oryx and his sisters communed with. In the Books of Sorrow, there are a multitude of similarities. The father of the sisters had a familiar, as they called it, a dead worm he kept that he said spoke to him. One of the sisters took it as they fled, and she mentions it in the books. The worm, carved in my code by Sathona, who should be afraid? It was my father's familiar. I ripped it from him as we fled. It is a dead white thing, segmented, washed up from the deep sea. It's dead, but it still speaks to me. It says, "Listen closely, O vengeance mine." When conferring with the Leviathan, a mighty, ancient creature, one of the sisters protested by saying, "Sisters, I have my father's familiar. Look, it answers me in plain words. It helped me find this ship. It gives me the strength when hope is lost. Who will you trust? The voice that wants us to live and suffer as we have lived and suffered, the Leviathan that offers no hope against tow or the world wave, or the plain, honest worm? Let us see where it whispers lead us. Let us go deeper. Let us dive, O sister mine." Later, one of the daughters of Oryx mentions the worm directly, saying, "The dragons, our gods should be ours alone. Their smug freedom is an insult to me. I'd shut them all in cells. Bring them to me." Finally, a direct mention is made to dragon wishes, as the Ahamkara described in our system, in the record of the attack on the gift mass by Oryx and his sisters. Now arrives Xivu Arath at the head of her armada. She fights the Harmony for 50 years with strategies and discipline, but the Harmony turn to dragon wishes, and their wishful bishops wrestle Xivu in the ascendant plane. Xivu falls into a deadlock. Next arrives Savathun, flanked by her chorus and her celebrants. They trick their way onto the Ana Harmony in disguises, so that they might vivisect these dragons. The worm, our god, laughs and laughs. For 100 years, Savathun keeps secret covens among the Harmony. But first of all was Oryx, whose brood grew in secret places in the rubble of the accretion disk. The first navigator sends rocks and comets to crash into the Harmony worlds, so that the Harmony fleet will be disarrayed. He sends cedars to infiltrate the Harmony worlds with his broods. Here at the center of the 5th book, the Hive has grown so mighty that it has made the annihilation of all false life routine. Xivu Arath kills the wishful bishops, and Savathun achieves some secret purpose, and Oryx's court tears down the gift's mast. The Harmony people wail in terror, and they throw themselves into the silver lakes of Ana Harmony to drown. These mentions of the worm that speaks on after death, a worm that grants dragon wishes, a worm that can bestow power and knowledge to those that make deals with it, draw chilling similarities to the Ahamkara found within our own system. So, Guardian, have you heard the whispers of long-dead dragons? Have you been lured in by promise of power or knowledge? What haunts your dreams in the early hours of the morning? Could the dragons of old be the same as those worms met by the Hive? Or are the Ahamkara really extinct? Regardless of what you believe, remain vigilant. Stay watchful, be wary of the powers we do not fully understand, and keep to your light as you traverse and battle through the darkness.